Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP. John Paz with me today. Very special guest, a former OVW Triple Crown champion. He was a champion in the USWA. He's been a champion in IWA Puerto Rico. He's, of course, Mr. Flash Flanigan. Flash, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Doing good. What's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Fighting to survive. And I don't know about the wrestling world anymore. Every day I keep thinking, is ready to hang it up yet or not? But it's one of those things. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm going to retire," but to me, the only way you retire is you lose everyone's number and lose contact with everyone because someone will talk you back into getting in the ring one more time. So,
So you're still wrestling? You're still doing it?
still doing it, just not as much.
Is it like an every weekend kind of thing, or
Yeah, I mean, I still go to Puerto Rico every now and then, and I work for Herb Simmons in just outside of St. Louis, SICW's Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, and then just here and there.
you still working for what promotion in Puerto Rico?
For IWA?
Oh, they're still going. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Man, are you still going as what was it, Slash Venom? You're still doing that?
yeah, still Slash, and then I'm supposed to go to Florida here in a couple weeks to do the IWA Florida, but
Interesting. How's the body holding up though?
some days are good, some days are bad. Some days I can remember things, some days I can't.
Hmm.
You would think of things I could remember, I would remember pretty good. But there's times I'll be like, I'll look at YouTube and I'll see matches like I don't even remember this. It's like, and I can see, I mean, in 30 years, time you've been in a locker room with a lot of guys, and people come up, hey, yeah, I seen you here. Remember me? I'm like, man, I'm bad with names, and sometimes I'm good with faces, but as the years go by, kind of faces kind of got to remind me a little bit more stuff.
Yeah, that means you've been around the block a little bit in the
Yeah, a
business
little
for
bit.
sure. When you initially broke in, early '90s, right?
Yeah, 92.
Has the wrestling business changed so much from now to then? Like what you're seeing now to what you were seeing when you broke in '92?
Yeah, see, this is the funny thing. Like when I started, I wanted to be. I like Roddy Piper, and I always want. And this is where, as you get smartened up to the business, you realize, there's certain things because you got to have the good guy and got to have bad guy. It's good versus evil,
Yep.
and I wanted to be that bad guy everyone liked. And it's like, So I was thinking the whole Steve Austin character, not that it was going to be like that, but I wanted to be because I like Roddy Piper. So it was like,
Mm.
okay, why can't the babyface cheat? I mean, you're fighting, you got to do what you got to do to win. And I look back at it as like, I see now you see it all the time, but once you smarten up to the business and realize, hey, you, there's a format, and this is why you do things. And but I thought about doing that stuff a long time ago.
When you think about it, though, did you like Piper because that, like, like the cool heel kind of thing, or did you like his shit talking? Like, what was it about Piper that attracted you to him so much?
Is he he was just witty, and like Bobby Heenan,
Yep.
he was great. I mean,
Yep.
there's no one better in the brain. And then like Cornette was great. He just bam, 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 cutting you down and insulting you. And he got to where they in Midnight Express. I mean, they were great.
Oh yeah.
And it's like so. That, to me, like Bobby and Stan. I mean, they had their cool double team moves and everything. So man, it's kind of hard to hate these guys. They got some cool moves.
So basically, you always were attracted to the heels of the business more than the baby faces, for sure.
Yeah, and the funny part is like when you sit there and look at it, the guys that you hated the most were usually the nicest guys, and the guys you loved, and most of them were the jerks.
Yeah. It's funny, like me doing conventions and interviewing guys for about 8 years now and just doing stuff. It's funny, some of the guys that are the heels, they'd be like, "Oh, this guy was such an asshole on TV," or and then they're awesome, like to work with, or they're awesome to talk to. You're like, "Wow, that's so weird." Like you would think, like you said, like the baby faces sometimes were the dicks. You're like, "Wow, that is so weird." I would always mental model. You always think of the opposite.
Yeah, well, Ricky Steamboat, now great guy. Sit there and he talk to you and help and give you this all around great guy. I can't say anything bad about him. Ricky Morton, another great guy. And Tracy Smothers was one of the nicest guys until he snapped.
Hmm.
And fortunately for me, Tracy always liked me. So I never. You sit there. I remember one night someone went up to him, and they were just starting out in the business, and they were like, "Hey, go out there and do this, this, and this." And Tracy's listening to him, and Tracy said, "Just listen to me out there, and we'll have a good match." And the guy goes, "What? You just went out there and beat us up?" And boy, Tracy snapped. He goes, "Oh, okay? You go out there and you get what you can. We'll see what you can do." And then all of a sudden, you see Tracy over there doing a shadow boxing. I'm like, "All right, this is gonna be good."
What happened? Did he kick their ass?
I I don't think he did. I mean, Tracy was professional, but I'm sure it might have been a little snug out there.
I love that though. The guy is being a smart ass
Yeah,
and
I
don't
mean,
mess with Tracy Smothers.
and it's just one of those things. I mean, when you're young and green and you come up to someone that's been around and you're like, "Hey, this is what I do." I mean, I had a guy do that to me one time. He came up to me and goes, "Hey, this is what I do in the ring." And I'm like, "Man, I'm just sitting there. I don't know the guy. I'm just observing him walk around." And you can sit there and see, okay, does this guy have a clue or anything? Because I don't want to get out there in the ring and someone hurt me from something stupid that they've done. And then so he's telling me all this stuff. I'm like, and I looked over at one of the guys, like, man, can you believe that? I couldn't imagine back in the day if I went up to someone that had been around for a while and sit there and I go, hey, this is what I do out there. I'm like, I don't know you. Like, just listen to me and we'll have a good match. But and then I watched him go to the ring stuff, and he just is one of those things. I don't know why heels think they need to walk around the ring on the floor, get in people's faces, because all that does is when you stand up next to someone in the crowd, you see how big you are, and you see how big the guy in the crowd is, and you're taking a chance that someone out there in the crowd just going ahead and punching you. And then what good's that when you can get in the ring and walk all the way around and you yell at people like that and get you to eat where you're on the stage instead of out there on the floor. And I try to tell people that, and they just look at you like, "Oh, okay." And then you watch them; they go walking around the ring, and then they get in people's faces, then they get in the ring, and it's like you should have just got in the ring and got your heat while you're in the ring, yelling at people or whatever.
When they do that, though, do you say to them anything in the ring? Or you stiff them in the ring, or do you say like, "Come on, man"? Like, what do you
Oh
say
no,
to them when they're doing shit like that?
if I'm in the back and I'm watching through the curtain or something, uh, then they come back, I'll tell them, say, "Man, so you'll get more heat if you get in the ring instead of just picking on one guy in the crowd because you got to work the whole crowd. So that ring is your stage. Everyone else, so there's people in the other parts of the building, other sides of the arena, they can't even see what's going on. So what's that really doing? Except maybe turning that fan off and he's not going to come back. So
True. Yeah. So, what's a good experience you had with Tracy? I know you obviously knew him very well, the legendary
uh,
Tracy Smothers.
Tracy was great. I mean, I can't. I don't know anyone was anything bad to say about Tracy. I mean, we used to use Tracy. We were running shows every Thursday night here in Indianapolis, and we'd bring Tracy up and Ricky Morton, and that's how basically I got hooked up with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Ricky and Tracy liked me, and they put me over to Cornette, and out of the blue, Cornette called me up, and they were doing that Super Bowl wrestling show, and it was, hey, I know it's short notice. You think you could? Would you want to do this big show here in Knoxville? I'm like, yeah. Get my foot in the door. And then after that, Corette liked me, and I just hounded him, and then he brought me in, did some shows the following month, and then he brought me in full time either at the end of October. It might have been the end of October or beginning of November. But I just know I got my foot in the door, and then at the end of the November they closed it. They closed down, and Tracy used to always rib me saying I was the territory killer because I was there when Smoky Mountain closed down, and I was there when USWA closed down. So,
Damn, you are the territory killer. Damn. Do you remember who you worked with in Smoky Mountain at the Super Bowl wrestling show?
Me and Chris Michaels worked with the Headbangers, and we were like the opening match or something, first or second match.
Pretty good though to get on that show because I mean there was a lot of
Yeah,
WWF
yeah.
on the show, a lot of eyes on that show for sure.
Shawn Michaels worked with Buddy Landell. You had Taker and
Kane.
Unabomb, Kane at the time, and who else was there? I remember, I think Mongolian Stomper was there. Yeah, I mean, you get the Armstrongs and everything. Bullet Bob was always great. And, Brad Armstrong was awesome. I remember Brad came back on the show one night. I can't remember where we were at, but he had a wad of ones from the gimmick table, and he came up and he just handed it all to me. He goes, "Here, kid, go out and have some fun tonight." I was like,
wow.
And Brad was awesome.
Wow, damn. Why did he do that? That's really nice.
I guess because he just realized, I mean, here I was a young kid just starting out, and I don't know. I guess he liked me, but Brad was awesome. That whole Armstrong family, Bullet Bob, he was awesome. Every time I see him, sometimes I always wonder, I'd see him at shows, I wonder if he remembers me, and he always remembered me. I got to work with it's funny, I seen Scott Armstrong when he was refereeing. I was telling him, I've been able to be in the ring with your dad and all your brothers. I said, I've never worked with you. And he's like, I'm the best one. We started laughing. But no, so the Armstrong family was awesome.
Always hear good things about them. But all those singles, did you go to the strip club? What did you do with all the singles?
I had to pay for my motel room.
Ah, okay.
But the money was to go to the strip club, I think, because he handed me some, I can't remember the name of the strip club.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Knoxville, but I was able to get him my motel room for the night.
What did you think about working for Cornette, though? What do you think about it? I know he's a lightning rod to a lot of people. What did you think about working with Jim?
Awesome. Loved working with him. I mean, and people will sit there and they talk about, oh, Cornette, you're stuck in this time and all that. When you listen to Cornette's podcast, everything he's saying is correct. I mean, when you watch it, it's like, yeah, I can't argue with him. Stuff he's telling you is like, yeah, all right, yeah. Say what you want about him, but he's telling you how it is.
Are you a big fan of his podcast? Sounds like you are.
I mean, I really don't get on there and say, oh, I'm just this whole podcast because I have a short attention span. I'm not going to sit there and listen to something unless I'm on the road, and I'll put it in when I listen to it on the radio or something. And usually I just play something else. But it all depends what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm tired of listening to music, I'll find some podcast to listen to or something.
Love his podcast. So entertaining. He's so funny. Obviously, there's some truth behind a lot of stuff he's saying, but there's a lot of funny comedy mixed in too with some of the things he says. Just very, very fun, very entertaining.
Yeah, I was there the night he tried to run over Terry Landell. I remember we were in Knoxville and we were in the locker room, and Mark Henry came in. He goes, "Hey, there's a show just down the road at some car lot." He goes, "I think I seen the Rock and Roll Express down there." And Cornette was like, "Terry Landell." He goes, "I'm gonna kill him." And he took off in his car and went down there. I didn't witness any of it, but all we ever heard was how his wife got maced, and Cornette got back to the building and says, "Flash, make sure you grab the belts, bring them back to Louisville. I got to get out of here. The cops are after me."
Holy shit. Damn.
Then you hear the story later. How a big fight broke out there and try to run Terry over.
I love it. That's great. I guess he never got in trouble for it, though, I guess.
He had to go back. I don't know what all happened, but I think he had to go to court or something. But I don't ultimately know what happened. Obviously, I mean, he didn't go to
With
jail or anything because he was in OVW at the time.
with like Cornette and with Smoky Mountain, was the thought process like I'm gonna get somewhere like bigger, I'm gonna sign a contract somewhere? Like, what's the thought process when you're in Smoky Mountain? It's like, okay, this is gonna help launch Bad Me to WCW or WWF, or no? That wasn't a thought.
Oh no, I was like my whole thing. I always want to go to WWF. I grew up, and it was like, but either way, WWF or WCW, I wanted to go to one of them. And from WCW, if I went to WCW, you'd ultimately want to go to WWF just because that was where you're making the money. And so Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I mean, it was great because there was all the guys I basically grew up watching. And you got Tommy Rich, Terry Gordy, Brad Armstrong, Buddy Landell, Rock and Roll Express, Tracy Smothers, Tom Pritchard, and Jimmy Del Rey. You got all these guys there, Bullet Bob. So it was just a locker room of knowledge there. So it was like, man, this is great. Learning from all these guys. And they were all good to me. So all you could do was learn. Like I always remember Rip Rogers when he's breaking me in and stuff. Like, show up on time, keep your mouth shut, and do as you're told. So I would go there and I would just listen. And like waiting for just and I come back from matches, guys we had been watching, they'd say, hey, if you do this and this, I'm like, okay. So it was great learning experience.
Was Rip one of your main trainers when you were breaking in?
A guy by the name Keith Goldsby, he broke me in, and then he would bring Rip in, and we would work with Rip, and Rip would teach us stuff. And you would learn so much. It's like, man, this is great. And you're listen, but at the time, it was like you're sitting there like, man, does Rip like me or does he hate me? Because Rip was like so sarcastic, and he's like, you just wonder, like, and like everyone loves him at OVW now. Like all the people that as I was gone from OVW, they all talk about how Rip was like, man, Rip's changed. He just turned a 180. That wasn't him back whenever I was starting out. And no, Rip's great. He's always been good to me. And then he basically, it's one of those things to see how you're going to take any criticism, and you just basically, and you sit back and think, like, man, I mean, there was times he would tell me stuff, and I'm like, oh, man, he really hates me, doesn't he? But he's teaching you, and so I don't know about to say about Rip either. So
Yeah, he seems like another guy who could be considered a lightning rod, or people always have funny things to say about him. But it looks like he did a great job training, the Ortons of the world and the Lesners of the world, and that class of OVW in the
I was
2000s
there
that
with
were,
all those guys.
yeah, that you were a part of, yeah, that were killing it for a while. So Rip did a
'Cause,
mighty good job.
well, with Randy, we were bringing him down to Nashville to work for Burt Prentice. And then Cornette came up to me and goes, how's Randy doing? I'm like, hey, he's ready. You can do something with him. So he stuck him with me. And we were having good matches. And then like his I don't know if you've ever seen like his debut when he did the dark match. I did a dark match with him. And I had just had surgery on my arm 5 days earlier. And I still had the stitches in and everything on my elbow. And we did the match, and he did a press on me. When he pressed me, I landed. I smacked my elbow on the mat, and my elbow ballooned up. I had a hard covering over the elbow to try to protect it. And we got back to the back, and I got into trouble. It was basically, well, you don't get in the ring knowing that you're hurt. Like, man, that's the way I was brought in. So work around it. And
Yeah.
nope, not that time. They didn't like that
Did,
too well.
Did they like what they saw from Randy, though? It seems like yes.
Yeah, sure they did. It went long after he got called up.
Did you think that he was going to be as big of a star as he became?
Yeah, we always knew he would be a big star. Brock was definitely going to be a big star just the way he looked. Batista, we figured would be a big star. Cena, we always wondered because Cena on the mic was tremendous. He would rip you apart, and he could cut promos, boom, 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 boom. Just out, you could come up with something that just quick witted. And then in the ring, he wasn't bad. He wasn't one of the greatest workers, but I mean, basically, it's not about work, anyways. If you can connect with the fans, and he connected with the fans, so.
But it's interesting. He didn't, or a lot of the guys weren't sure about him, and he obviously became one of the bigger ones. But that's interesting that not
Well, I
everybody was
mean,
sold on him.
he talked about how they were going to release him, and then he was doing the rapping in the back, the freestyle stuff, and Stephanie had heard it and gave him a shot at that, and boom, took off.
Yeah, she liked
And
what
then,
she heard. He was in the Vanilla
yeah,
Ice thing. Yeah.
and then when they talk about like, oh, Cena needs to turn. Cena needs to turn. Why does he need to turn? He's selling them more merchandise than anyone else. So why do you want to turn your cash cow in? It's like, roll with it. You got these one side's cheering, one side's booing. I mean, if he turns, I mean, I respect all that. He stayed true to himself. So they're going to boo me, and I said, but I'll still play off and say, and he still stayed the babyface.
What an interesting time in the business that was. I'd never seen that before in all my years of watching. You know, when Hogan's the top babyface, 99% of the audience likes Hogan. When Steve Austin's the top babyface, 99% of the audience likes Steve Austin. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen before it's 50-50, sometimes 40-60. You know what I mean? Like, he was not well liked by a big chunk of the fans. That was just such an interesting time.
Yeah, I remember I wrestled in Columbus, Indiana, in this little uh, fairgrounds, and this one kid, he was handicapped, and but he'd always wear his John Cena shirt to the shows. Every month he'd come there and he was like, "Can't see me," and he had his John Cena shirt, and his hat, and all that. And he loved John Cena, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember I was doing a dark match back in the mid 20 teens. I don't know what it was exactly, but I was telling him about it. I said, "Yeah, there's a kid. He loves you, man." He goes, "He's one of your biggest fans. Every month he's wearing your shirts and all that." And because WWE has this policy, don't ask the superstars for any autographs or any pictures or anything. But I mean, man, I know these guys, they're friends of mine. So I'm telling John about this. He goes, "Do you have video on your phone?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Here, let me have your phone." So he cuts a promo for this kid talking to him. And he goes, "Here," he was, "make sure he sees this." All right. So maybe 15, 20 minutes later, they come up to me and goes, "Hey, I know you probably know this, but don't be asking the superstars for any pictures or anything like that." I'm like, whoa, wait. I was just telling John about a kid that comes to the show that's a really big fan, and he's mentally challenged. And he loves John Cena. That was all John. I didn't ask him to do anything. I go, "Oh, okay. If he did it, okay, fine." So I go to John. I'm like, "Oh, way to go. Here I am trying to get my foot back in the door, and you're already getting me heat." And he just started laughing. I was like,
That's great though. They did it for the fan. I mean,
"Yeah."
that's awesome. A cool story for that.
And
Yeah, that's great.
I got the kid's number, and I texted it to him, and he was so excited. Like, he'd come in there and like he'd have to have these brain surgeries and stuff, and you feel bad for the kid, but he loved John Cena, and
See something like that, which is great by seeing it. I mean, that'll make the kid's year. You know what I mean? I mean
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
and it's like it says, John's a good guy. I can't say anything bad about him.
Yeah, it's just funny that they could have turned him heel, but then it would have been reversed, and then the half
Yeah,
that hated him would have loved him, and the half that loved him would have hated him. It might have done no good.
Yeah, I mean, and Cena was over with the kids, so the kids want to go to the show. They're bringing their parents. So if
Oh
the
yeah.
kids don't want to go, maybe the parents aren't coming either. So hey, stay with your baby faces on top.
Yeah, it's just funny because my son, he's really was maybe too little to watch Cena, but he's got like a little Cena lunch bag. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know John Cena." I was like, "Do you like John Cena?" He's like, "No, not really. I like The Rock." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird. Like you're so little, but even he's got it right." To me, anyway, it's like, "Wow, yeah, he likes The Rock, but he's not a big Cena guy." But he's got his little lunch bag. So
Yeah.
even, I mean, I even fell victim. I bought his merchandise there. So yeah, it is funny though. Like when you look at OVW at that point, it was like, man, a murderer's row of all those guys that come in. They
So much
stop
talent.
using it, but they stop using OVW. Why do you think that is? It's like you hit the home run with OVW. Why stop using OVW?
I don't know. I really don't know because when I was there, me and Nick Dinsmore, we both got signed in '99, and then I had torn when I wrestled Jericho. That was in 2001. I had torn my tricep, and then I came back in October, and I was on the road doing a show with them, and that was my return to the ring from the elbow surgery. And then we're doing the stuff, and then in that July, I got released. John Laurinaitis called me up, like, I hate doing this, but we gotta let you go. Is there anything we can do? Give me a call, so we'll help you out. Nothing. So, and then I'll never forget. I came back from Puerto Rico. That was in 2008ish or whatever, but 2010, I had to try out again, and they're down watching us. And the whole thing was you're watching all these guys, and they want you to get in the ring, do something, have a match, and then cut a promo. And so I started doing my Flash Mania stuff, and then I did Raw and SmackDown. So at Raw, they had me as I was a waiter for the John Cena segment in the motel room where he beat up uh, was it Otunga, uh, David Otunga,
Yeah.
and there's Bray Wyatt, and I can't remember if there's anyone else there. I know Triple H was there, and so we did that. And if you go back and you can watch that, you can hear the crowd. They go like, "Hey, it's Flash," and then so I did that. Then the next night we were in like Columbus, Ohio, and Laurinaitis came. He just started ripping me a new one. He goes, "You wanted to try out? Give you this tryout, and you go out and do that Hulk Hogan crap." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm sitting there watching everyone do their interviews, and it was always the same thing. Yeah, my name is so and so. I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler. Blah blah blah." And I just started cutting a wrestling promo, and I was like, "All right, whatever." And and there was these guys that were there for the tryout, or they were already signed, but there was like 5 or 6 guys there. They were having them work out in the ring. He goes, "You see these guys? Look at them," and none of them made it. And there was a Mason Ryan.
Yep.
The guy looked like Batista.
Yep.
Looked great, but he looked like Batista. So you already knew he was gonna have problems because it was always gonna be compared to Batista.
Yep.
And then the bell rang. So
Oh yeah, that's the age old adage. Then the bell
yeah,
rang. Yeah. So as far as like WWF is concerned, when like were you first initially signed? Were you initially signed in '97 when they brought you in for the lightweight
no,
tournament, or no?
no, I didn't even know I was booked for that. I was watching Raw and I seen the brackets and I seen my name on there. I'm like, wait a minute, someone's using my name. And then Cornette calls me up and goes, "Hey, can you do this lightweight tournament?" I'm like,
So he
"Yeah,
put you in before you knew you were in.
yeah." I'm
Wow.
like, "Yeah, this is great." Here I am, get my foot in the door, but I really wasn't ready at the time. It was one of those bad timings because I had the long hair, and I just cut all my hair off, and I just shaved, so I looked like such the baby face, and the baby face look. And I was like, oh man, and I was like, and all that had just happened prior to me finding out that I was going on there.
Hmm.
It's like, man, here I
Should have
just,
gave you the heads up.
yeah, here I had cut my hair off because when I was going to start doing the Dennis Rodman thing at that time. Dennis Rodman would come out the different colors of hair and all that.
Oh yeah.
And I'd mentioned that to Cornette. I go, yeah, I'll dye my hair blonde, and then I'll put colors in and all that kind of stuff. And then next thing I know, Goldust is doing it. But whether they took my idea, I don't know. But mine was just going to be that I was unpredictable what I was going to do and be, you know, but so that didn't go over. And then I would do dark other shows, and then had one dark match somewhere, and I was working in one man gang, and gang was getting a tryout, which is funny. I said, "How you're going to just get him a tryout? You already know what he can do." Shoot,
Yeah.
and Gang's a great guy.
Yeah, he only worked there for 8 years in a row during the hottest period in wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting there talking, and Shawn Michaels comes in. He tells Gang, he goes, "Don't give him anything. Just go out there and beat him up. You didn't give me anything when I started. Just go out there and squash him." And I was like, "Jeez." That was Shawn back then.
Rough. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm like, man, I like your work, Shawn. Now you see why everyone said what they were saying about you. I never did anything to you. I'm like anyone else. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door.
Yeah, a little bit of dick. Did one man gang give you some offense or no?
Yeah. I mean, there was some stuff I wanted to do, and he's like, "Oh man, that's some of that Mexican stuff," and it wasn't really. It was easy stuff. I want you to stand there, and I'll do the springboard and drop kick and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, he ain't got let me do it. It's like it's all you do is miss something, and I'll just do the springboard and hit you. Was, oh, all right, but and the ironic thing is Johnny Ace was there having a dark match. Also, he worked with Bobby Duncan Jr.
Wow, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah,
Had no idea that he even had a tryout match for WWE.
yeah, and then like after that, that's when he went to WCW. I think he went to WCW after that. It was doing whatever he was doing there.
Agenting, producing, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I know he's a big part of All Japan too.
He has big finishes. It was great.
Is that true?
Is it true that he's great?
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
I can kind of tell where you're leaning on that one. So
Baba's wife liked him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So he had a job for. I mean, it's nice knowing that your brother's one of the biggest stars in wrestling and can help you out. So
yeah,
and
no doubt about that.
The owner's wife of the company, she likes you. So, all right.
So you're not a big Johnny Ace fan?
I don't think many people are.
I don't know about it anymore. Yeah, I don't know about it anymore. True.
I mean, look I'm not even going to go into any of that stuff because there's some of the people I like and some people I don't. So, and the guys I like those guys. So I'm not going to talk about some of the other people. So, we'll just leave it at that.
So going back to 97 WF, so you're not signed, but you're there, but you're wrestling. They don't tell you you're going to be signed. They don't give you plans. You're just there.
Nope. I was just a body. And then, but that's when I met Victor Quiones. And I talked to Victor, and I had Savio and Miguel Perez and Hurricane Castillo. I talked to those guys and everything. And Val Venus was just getting ready to make his debut. But I'd heard stories about Victor, and I didn't know. You hear stories about people, but he was gay. But I'm not judging him. But you hear stories, you don't know anything. And we're after the show, we were at the motel, and we were at the bar, and he just kept buying me drinks. And I was like, so he goes, so what do you think we can do to help you out in your career? let's go back to the room. We'll talk. So we go back there in the room, and I'll leave this guy's name anonymous, but he goes like, "Hey, this is my bitch." Smacks him on the butt, and I'm thinking that's odd. And I'm
Yeah.
and I'm drunk, and so we're sitting there talking, and he goes, "So what are you trying to get out of business?" And, I want to get into WWF. So he goes, "So well, how do you think you can go about this?" I'm like, "I need a contract." And he puts his hand on my leg. He goes, "No, really." He goes, "What do you think we could do to further your career?" And I was like,
Oh
"Man."
boy.
And if a light bulb could ever pop on top of someone's head,
Yep.
mine would have been going bing, 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 bing. Oh my God, this guy's trying to get me.
Yep.
I'm like, what time is it, man? I go, I gotta catch a flight in a few hours. And he tells me, well, I gotta get going. I gotta get going. So I left. But I had his number, and then I contacted him, and I was working for Dennis Carluzzo at the time also. And Victor was going to bring me to Mexico, but I don't speak Spanish. And he told me what I was going to get paid, but I was going to be making the same amount of money going to work for Carluzzo that weekend than I was going to be making for the week in Mexico. So I was like, all right. And so I called him and go, Victor, I can't make it. I said, I'm making the same amount of money on these 2 nights in Jersey working for Carluzzo that I would a week in Mexico. And I didn't say it, but I was like, I don't want to go someplace I don't speak Spanish and knowing this guy's wanting to rape me.
Yeah. Yep.
No, and I say he wanted to rape me. That was a joke. But I mean, to hear this guy is trying to hook up with me,
Yeah,
and
he likes you.
and like, whoa. So I think I had a little bit of heat with him there. But when I got released from WWE, I went to TNA, and they were so unorganized. It was like, God, do they know what's going on? I mean, my debut, I came in, and I remember Vince Russo. He's like, "So what kind of gear do you got?" I'm like, man, all I was told to dye my hair black and come in here, and you guys would call me Cobain. I was part of the disciples of the new church,
Yep.
and he goes, "Well, what would Kurt Cobain wear?" I'm like, man, I don't know. What would he wear? You act like I know who Kurt Cobain really is. I mean, I knew who Nirvana was, but I didn't know. Okay, oh, this is what Kurt Cobain wears. And so he goes, "Well, go get some jeans and t-shirt and dirty it up and all that." And I'm like, "All right." So there was a Salvation Army store not very far. So we got some jeans and t-shirt and dirtied them up. And I went to was going out to the ring. They started chanting Nashville Brawler. And I was like, man, I'm dead already. And it's like, I'm already buried. So came back, and I was like, man, that look's not going to work. So I got to change it up a little bit. So I started wearing my Charles Manson shirt and the cut off jean shorts and stuff. And that was the last show I did was it was like a Royal Rumble type thing, battle royal for getting a tag team title shot or something. Then after that, I went down there and I went and booked. Went booked the following week, and I mean I went down another week, but I was like, man, I need to know if I'm booked here or not, because I'm not going to keep making a drive to Nashville from Indianapolis and coming down here and losing money. I go, screw that. So Cornette had called Dutch in Puerto Rico, and they got me booked down there. Dutch was booking for Kiona's, so they brought me in, and Victor was, I mean, it was great. Savio was great to me, Miguel. I mean, so I already knew these guys from doing the shows at WWE, so they were good to me. And Victor was cool. I mean, he would go. He told me, you got a job here as long as you want. And he goes, I'll keep you around. Have you where you got work? I just great. Okay, I'm living here by the beach. I'm working almost every night. I can't complain. And then Victor passed away. Business kind of a little bad, but I had fun down there. Everyone talks bad about Puerto Rico, saying, "Oh, this and this and this." I loved it. It was great, and I've got nothing bad to say about any of those guys down there.
Did you have? Oh,
one,
except for who?
maybe one.
Oh, who is it?
We'll just leave. Everyone could probably figure out who the one guy is.
Did you have some heat with Victor though?
Kiona's?
Yeah.
No, he was great to me still. I mean, he's like I said. I mean, he no heat. He just like cause I remember after I didn't go down to Mexico, he really wouldn't book me for anything. But after Cornette talked to Dutch, I mean, then they got me down there, and everything was cool. Never had a problem with anything. Always had my money.
And he,
So,
he never tried anything with you ever
nope,
again after that.
nope. I mean, you know, you joked around with, but never had a problem with him. Anyway, I mean, nowadays everyone's like,
That's good. So what did you
like,
think?
huh? What
I was
now?
gonna say, what'd you think about Dutch working for Dutch?
And I knew Dutch from USWA, so and working with Dutch and living there and listening to him about stuff, going putting stuff together. Man, Dutch was great. He's like, you can learn so much from him. I remember they were doing the promos in the office with Savio and all them because we were with Savio's group, and the pictures on the wall were all crooked. And I'm like, hey Dutch, I mean, the pictures on the wall are all crooked. He goes, yeah, Savio's crooked. I'm like, that's pretty good. And just something simple like that, you get the heels that are crooked, pictures on the wall are crooked. It's like, oh, now you know they're crooked.
Yeah. What did you think, Joe, just about wrestling in Puerto Rico in general? Because us fans always feel like that's crazy down there. They're nuts. The fans are crazy. What did you think of just about the atmosphere of wrestling down there in Puerto Rico?
Loved it. I mean, if you're going to get heat, I mean, you got to watch your back because they'd always tell me, do not fight out in the crowd. Someone will stab you. And I was like, well, let's go out in the crowd. And I mean, I got punched a few times, but no one ever stabbed me. Guy down the street where we lived, when I walked by, he'd be standing out there. He'd be cussing me in Spanish, and he'd be out there with his little band. He was a straight razor out there yelling at me like he was going to cut me or something. But I'd carry a knife around with me and my taser, and then just making sure that, man, if someone comes around here. But
Yeah.
But I mean, I never had any problems with anybody down there. We'd be at the beach, and I mean, I'd be passed out, and no one messed with. Luckily, no one ever robbed me or anything. I mean, and that was the only bad thing that I had was I got hooked on somas, and that's basically about it. And when Salvia and them realized that I was as bad as I was, they sent me home. I got myself cleaned up, which I'm glad they did, because if they didn't, I probably wouldn't be here today. But yeah, that's basically the only thing. I got hooked on someone's really bad.
How did that happen? Like, how'd you get hooked?
It's just one of those where you can't sleep. So I go to the pharmacy and get some Selmas, and then one becomes two becomes four, and then you keep going, building up tolerance, and then next thing you know, boom, you're hooked. And it's like, God. So, and when it's that accessible to you, you just go downstairs and go around the corner. There's the pharmacy, and you're getting it. But
Just that easy down there, huh?
not anymore. So it's good.
But it was easy, I guess, down there to get whatever you wanted to get.
Not really everything, but you can get somas. Because it's one of those things where the little mom and pop store, drugstores, you can get it, but if you go to Walgreens or CVS, you got to have a script. So
Where does Slash Venom? Where does that name come from?
down there, when I got in there, and that's the funny part because I was teaming with Wolfie
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and he was Slash. So when I get down to Puerto Rico, Bushwhacker Luke was like, "Do you mind if we change your name?" I'm like, "As long as I got a check each week, you can call me whatever you want. Hey, let's see what you got." He goes, "We're gonna call you slash Venom, Venom." I'm like, "All right, I'll make it work." And then they want to put like a scar over my eye, and I was like, "Listen, my partner I just left, his name was Slash. He had a scar over his eye. I'm not ripping you all completely. No, I'll do the Slash Venom, but uh,
So all Bushwhacker Luke, but you didn't mind doing the gimmick. You like the name. I mean,
it didn't
Flash
matter.
and Slash isn't too far off anyway.
Yeah. So no Flash Flanagan thing. No one really caught on to that. Like the whole Flash Flanagan thing was built around Hulk Hogan, and this I'd come up with in grade school. And the whole bit was Hogan would always cut his promos about the training, the prayers, the vitamins, believe in yourself, believe in Hulkamania, blah blah blah.
Yep.
So, and then he'd be like, one of these days there's going to be that little Hulkamaniac that grew up, and I'm gonna have to face him to find out is he the one. So Hogan never passed the torch down to anybody. So my whole thing was here, and you got Hulk, Flash, Hogan, Irish name, Flanigan, Irish name, HHFF. Perfect. I had the bleach blonde hair, and I wasn't 6'6" and 300 pounds. I was 6'2" and 205. But that was the whole thing that I would do. I was the new younger version, and I wanted to, because I mean, shoot, working with Hogan, you're going to be making money.
Oh yeah.
So regardless, I didn't care. I don't win or lose, but you get stuck with Hogan, you are already going to be known. And that was the whole purpose, the whole Flash Flanagan thing. And no one ever caught on to it really. They thought it was like a rib. I'm like, no. You listen to Hogan's promos, you got years of him saying all this stuff. And now as time goes by, here's the guy now that says, hey, I'm going to find out if I'm the guy that's going to get in the ring with you. So either way, win or lose, you can, hey, and if he puts you, he got to put you over, but you have the match, you hang in there with him, and he escapes with the victory. He can sit there and say, you almost got it, kid. And there you go. Now you got a tag team. And from there, now he's built someone up. But nope.
Did you ever meet the Hulkster?
I met him when I was a kid, when I was maybe 15. And then when I did some jobs in WCW, but it was one of those, Rip took me down there, and all right, I'm just here to do the job. And I worked with I worked with Earthquake, and then Vader, who are both at the time doing things with Hogan.
But you never really
I've never got to sit down and talk to him. No, it's hey, but no.
Come on, he's your hero. Come on.
No, that's the thing. He wasn't really my hero, but you knew he was the guy making money because you go to as a kid going to the shows, you see the crowd. When Hogan was announced, the place was packed.
Yep.
When Warrior was doing the stuff, the crowd was down a little bit. Crowd wasn't like Hogan being there. Savage, crowd was good, but it wasn't like Hogan being there. When they announced Hogan was going to be there, boom. And as soon as that music hit, wham. It was just different. And it was like when Austin hit the ring, when the glass shattered, crowd was on their feet. Rock, crowd were on their feet. With Hogan, they were on their feet, and they never sat down till the match was over with. Almost, it was different.
With Vader and John Tenta, aka Avalanche, at that point, were those guys easy on you? Because I know I've heard the like basically the polar ends of the spectrum. That Tenta looks like he's killing you. He's not at all. He's light as a feather. Vader looks like he's killing you. He is really killing you. Is that true?
Okay, Tenta was easy, and basically because all I had to do in that it was a handicap match, and I was out. I didn't even get in the ring until the very end of it, where the match is already over with. And then he just pulls me in the ring, slams me, and gives me the earthquake drop, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vader, I mean, it was snug, nothing dangerous. And the only thing that hurt was when he pressed me. He had hold of my balls and squeezing them, but that was about it. He didn't get me in the corner and give me those punches or anything, and he was easy. I mean, he didn't say, I mean, he didn't hit me with anything. It was dangerous.
You always hear those stories like, "Oh, Vader stick," but it just looked awesome on TV, but you didn't know if he was really killing the guy or not. I guess not with you, but some guys, like remember Randy Hogan was complaining that Vader like destroyed him,
Yeah, I
on one of
remember
the
coming back to
shows.
the back though, and Arn Anderson was like, "Man, give that kid a Purple Heart." I'm like, nah, that wasn't bad.
Probably looked like it from his point of view, but
Yeah, so I guess
Vader's
if
good.
it
Yeah,
looked like it, he did his job and I did my job,
yeah, yep.
and I always take kind of pride in that because if you know how to sell, if you know how to sell, and you can make the boys in the back believe you're hurt, people in the crowd don't believe you're hurt. So I've always taken good pride in that, knowing how to sell.
So we'll hit the wind down. We'll head towards the finish. Got a bunch of questions though, just about WWF. So you were signed twice technically for WWF, or only once?
Well, when we signed in '99, I think that was like for a year, and then we had signed for other contracts for like 3 months. So I don't know how many contracts I had with them, but I mean, I was basically signed with them from like October of '99 to July of which I kept getting checks until August of 2002.
So do you go to the Funkin' Dojo? Like what do you
No,
do if
when I got signed, I was in OVW, and Cornette was like, "Hey, I got you and Nick a deal." He goes, "It's not the greatest amount of money, but you're getting your foot in the door, and they'll be taking a look at you." And he goes, "Do you guys want it?" And me and Nick were like, "Yeah." And went from there, and I got to still do all the other shows that I did. And so I was getting a check from them every Monday, and then doing the shows, other shows I were doing. So I was still wrestling every night, basically, and I was doing stuff in Nashville and Louisville and wherever else. And I was doing shows in Pennsylvania and getting a check from them. So
so it wasn't one of those things where like, hey, you're signed to a contract here, we're gonna send you to the dojo and like, that kind of thing where they did to a lot of the other guys that were like, I guess prospects.
no,
Um,
when we got signed, OVW was already the developmental center.
oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. So
Yeah,
the Funky Dojo was already gone at that point.
yeah,
It's an interesting thing with the developmental because wasn't there a lot of like guys that weren't contracted that would be there too? So it was like the contract guys, the non-contracted guys.
yeah. It was Danny Davis's students that he had. So OVW, that's how OVW started. It was Danny's students. And then Cornette came into the picture. Then it became a WWF developmental company. So they would send guys that they had signed down there or guys that had been injured and they're coming back from an injury to work off some ring rust and get back in the ring. And that's how that was. And Danny had his TV and they had come down and every now and then they'd come down and check it out and see how they were doing. And I remember like Jim Ross was down there and he was like, because they are always on me about getting bigger and leaning up. I was like, man, it was like I knew what they. I knew what they. It's one of those things. You know what WWF wants. You look at the guys. You knew they wanted jacked up guys.
Yeah.
And to me, I I've seen so many jacked up guys. They just give them. It's all going to be in the character they're going to give you, anyways. I mean, look when they brought Batista up, they put him in a shirt, and they're like, okay. And here he looked like $1 million. So, what kind of character you want? And you give them ideas, and it seemed like every idea I'd ever pitch went to someone else. So, OVW, I was the angry young man. It's like, okay, you could do a thing where I get sent to the anger management classes, and while I'm sitting there, I'm listening to all this stuff. He's trying to help me out, and then at the end of it, the guy that was going to that was doing the teaching, he's sitting in the chair, and I'm trying to teach him not to have anger issues. But I think they did that with Moxley, and they may have done it with Danielson. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Danielson and Kane. Yep.
and then like I said, I was an angry young man, and then it went along after that. Edge was the angry young man. I was like, a buddy of mine used to always rib me and play Edge's music, that the Ultra Ridge song that he came out to.
Yeah.
And
On this day.
yeah,
Yeah.
and because he was laughing. He was like, man, he goes, you can't get to break. I said, you throw any ideas out there, you can give it to someone else.
Yeah, you got to be careful, right?
Yeah,
Somebody's just going to
and it's the
steal
thing.
it.
And here they go. They're like, oh, you got any ideas for anything? I was like, man, I want to watch what I say, because you say something. He's like, well, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Or they'll just totally crap on it and then give it to someone else. Like I said, when I did the Flashmania thing for that tryout, their United strips to be a new one, and then the one long after that, you got Joe Henning out there, and he's doing Axelmania. He never got eliminated from the Royal Rumble. I'm like, oh, so I'm doing this, and you're sitting there crapping all over it. Yeah, okay, let's do it here. Like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. They did do Axelmania around that
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah.
Joe was a good guy, and they dropped the ball on him. Son of Mr. Perfect.
Yep.
And I pitched this idea to him also, because I had the bleach blonde hair and all that, clean shaven. I kind of resembled Kurt at the time, and I go like, you could put me and Kurt as a tag team, and here's Mr. Perfect, and I'm almost perfect. So everything Kurt we got doing all the stuff, hitting the home runs and all that. I'm hitting the ball, and the guy catches at the warning track. I throw the football and try to catch it. I catch the ball, hit the ground with it, and drop the ball. It's like I'm doing all this stuff. I'm bowling, and instead of getting a strike, I'm doing good, get to the last roll and get a 9. So I don't get the perfect game. And it was like, I'm almost perfect, but I'm not perfect. Then you get in the ring, and then in the ring you got there and do this stuff, and then Kurt would be taking advantage of it, where you're doing the work and he's capitalizing off all of it and making himself as the main guy, and he's kind of putting you down because you're not perfect at everything, but in the ring you were good. And then Kurt got fired with the Brock thing, and then it's like, well, that's done. But I'm surprised they didn't do something where Curtis Joe was almost perfect, or he was the perfect. He's going to be the new perfect guy.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. So, thinking about back your career, like what's the stamp or what's the legacy of Flash Flanagan, or what are people going to remember about you besides all your gimmicks kind of getting stolen here? What do you think people are going to remember?
If they watch the stuff, people probably think, man, I don't know. I mean, everyone have their own opinion. All I know is that when I went to the ring, I gave it everything I got, and I wanted to make sure if you bought a ticket to come to the show, I wanted you leaving that show talking about me, because I was going to the ring and giving everything I got.
And you worked everywhere, man. Think about it, WWF, WCW, Ring of Honor, even a little bit, Smoky Mountain, USWA, TNA. I mean, you pretty much worked everywhere.
Well, and like in Puerto Rico, I wish the
Puerto
Puerto
Rico, of
Rico
course,
stuff
yeah.
would have ran all over the world. If that could have been seen, because I had some of my best stuff down there, and some of the craziest things. We did because I did the Foley had done the bump off the cage, and down there we were on the second floor of the balcony, and we were teasing it, and I had the table set up, and he cuts me off, throws me over the balcony, and I missed the table, and I came down, hit the back of my head first, and landed on the floor, and everyone thought I was dead, and it knocked me out. And there were Savio comes up. He thought Ricky did it on purpose, and he swings the bat, bam, cracks Ricky Banderas right in the face, right above his nose, and broke his nose. And they do this, all this stuff still going on in the ring, and they're trying to get me awake. I'm out cold, and finally I came to, went to the back, and I'm walking down the back, and I look in the dressing room. There's Ricky on the floor, and he's got a big gash over his nose, and blood is all over the place. I'm like, man, because Ricky was supposed to jump off the second floor onto me, which, and I came up with all this, and this is what being screwed up on drugs. Like I said, I was all summing up when I came up with this, and I was supposed to go through the table, and Ricky was going to jump off the balcony and splash me, which was stupid to even think of because he would blow his knees out or killed me.
Yeah.
And then so I see that, and man, so I walk into the room and where Salvador and him was. I'm like, how did that look? And all I remember was Bushwhacker Luke was like, mate, you missed the table. I'm like, no, I didn't. And Savio was like, where you at? I'm in Indianapolis. You're in Puerto Rico. Go to the hospital. And
Oh, shit.
I
Yeah.
went to the hospital. It was like a scene from Rocky 2 when Apollo and Stallone are there in the hospital. And he's like, where is he? But we're sitting there. I'm in a wheelchair on one side of the room. Ricky's in a wheelchair on the other side of the room. And then the show comes on TV. They've gone on. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. IWA came on, and they're showing the recap from the week before where we beat up Ricky in the in-ring segment. And people are looking, they're looking at me, looking across the room at him, looking at me, looking at him. And then I was like, oh man. And then that's when the nurse, they called me back to the back, did a CAT scan on me. I'm like, yeah, you got a concussion. Yeah, just kind of stay awake the rest of the night, see how you do, and kind of take it easy a little bit. I'm like, all right. Went out there to the ring the following week in a wheelchair, and we did a bit where I got a standing ovation coming out there, and yeah, I got to go home. I got to have surgery and all this, and but I'll be back, and I'm gonna finish this, and we're gonna get right back up there, and I'm not gonna be done, so I throw you off of there. And Ricky comes out because the Savio, he looked at me, he dumped me out of my chair, and the crowd's booing Savio. Ricky's coming to make the save. When he runs, he's attacking them. I come up out of the floor and took the neck brace off, and the crowd went nuts. Boom! And then cracked him with the kendo stick, started beating him down. We left him laying, and that started that feud went on for over a year, and
Wow.
we ended it with the scaffold match.
That's awesome. But all because of the concussion, or not the
Just all
it's not
because of
supposed to happen, but you got a concussion. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, basically all it stems from getting thrown off the balcony. Boom. That's still remembered to this day. That was 2003. So yeah, 20 years ago. It's still remembered today.
Pretty crazy spot that you were even thinking about doing that, don't you think?
Well, for the first year, this is how this all became. The first year I was there, they really didn't do a whole lot with me. And I won't forget the dates because that happened on October 18th, because October 14th is when the Steve Bartman thing happened with the Cubs and all that. I'm a big Cub fan. And so we did the show on the 18th. So that's when Ricky threw me off the balcony. But the whole angle was supposed to have been Ricky goes through Miguel, and then goes through Castillo, then goes through me, and then gets to Savio. And they switched it up, put me first. And I was like, man, so I'm going to be the guy doing the job. All right. And I was the mystery opponent. And I'm like, I'm gonna give them something that's going to be impossible to follow. Like, all right, you guys want to treat me like that? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it wasn't like they were treating me bad. It was just one of those, my own pride. That they,
Yeah, you don't
you
want to
know
be the
what?
first guy up, the
I'm
job guy, the loser guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a name for myself. Like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna tear this place down. And like in OVW, I was like the man who loves to steal the show and all this. And my whole thing was, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna tear this place down. And you guys are gonna say like, oh man, I want to see Flash or Slash and Ricky. I don't want to see Ricky and anyone else. I want to see those two guys go back at it. And so we did that, and that started the feud. Then that went to we did it might have been like a Falls County Anywhere, to the big Christmas show we did in the cage, me and Apollo against Ricky and Vampiro. And a big riot broke out. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 15,000 people there. And a riot broke out in the crowd during the match. And my dad came down from the States. He went down there to visit me. And I was nervous because he was out in the crowd. Like, oh man, he's probably like the only American sitting out here right now. Hope no one messes with him. And finally, someone had got him back to the back. So I'm like, good, okay, he's all right. But yeah, that was kind of crazy. The fans got into a fight with themselves, right? And I can't remember if it was I don't know if it was somebody a drink getting thrown at somebody or what, but it just escalated, and boom, you got everyone fighting in this building, throwing chairs, and the riot squad got brought in, and they're coming out there and taking people away. They're on gurneys and everything. It's like, wow, it was crazy.
So is Puerto Rico your favorite time in the business? Was that your favorite territory to work?
Uh, OVW was, I had, it was almost like in OVW, I had my freedom where I come in because I had my car, everything else. I could go do whatever I wanted. Down there, it was, you were with, I made a lot of friends down there that weren't even in wrestling. So I had those guys I'd hang out with. And I guess OVW and Puerto Rico were the funnest places I've been. I can't. There's different ways. I mean, I have this made this so much fun, and this made this so much fun. So I can't complain about either one of them. I enjoyed both of them, but I mean, the wildness was important. It was in Puerto Rico.
Quite a run in both places too. If you look at it, like
Yeah,
OVW Triple Crown champion, so you're holding every belt there, and
actually,
obviously
quadruple crown champion. I was
hardcore too,
I
right?
was hardcore, yes. So
Yes, that's right. Yes, you did it all, pretty much in OVW, and obviously IWA, like you said, there was a lot of fun. But before we let you go, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody kind of do you do social media and stuff? Where can everybody see Flesh Flanagan?
I'm on there. I'm on Facebook and stuff. Twitter, no. Here's the whole thing. I really hate social media, and they are like, "Oh, you got to promote yourself on there." Okay, you have the '80s. There's no social media. Do people remember Macho Man Randy Savage?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, he is a legend. Hulk Hogan back then, a legend. Roddy Piper, a legend. These guys didn't have Twitter and all that. If you know so much about somebody, what makes them so special? It's the mystique of the guy. Like, I want to go see this person. If they're posting all this stuff, blah, 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 who cares? there's no mystery about him. Why do I really want to go see him if I can get online and watch him do this and this and this? I don't care about, oh, here's my family, blah blah blah. Well, I just basically I'll put pictures of my dog on there, and I have my one dog. He passed away back in July, and I went through a hard time with that. A lot of the boys, they all knew who my dog was. He was great, and that took a big hit on me, and I didn't know if I wanted to wrestle anymore. It's just one of those things. I love animals. I would actually would assume I would rather work at a zoo and feed the animals, because and the weird thing is I want to get out there and try to play with the bear and the tiger and the lion and all that kind of stuff. But if I got a job like that, you live here, and I probably got eaten by one of them. But
Yeah, oh yeah, be careful. Yeah, for sure. But Flash, thank you so much for all the time. I really appreciate great stuff. I love going down memory lane with you. Thank you so much for all the time.
hey, no problem.